Let's go.
Hello everybody, welcome back for another anime review video. We're going to be reviewing the movie Black Magic M-66 or Black Magic Mario M-66. Now, I will tell you in advance, this is not a thing for kids, absolutely. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I am familiar with this movie, so yes, there will be blood. I am watching the Japanese version, but if you want to skip to a spoiler-free review, look to down below. You'll see in my description area where to skip, and you'll see the time where to skip there on the screen as well. On that note, I hope you enjoy this. If you're watching this version where I'm going to recap, thank you for joining me. So let's get this bad boy started. So we start off our film in what looks to be a thunderstorm. And mind you, this film is done in full screen, not widescreen. It's a heavy storm, thunderous, and we see right off the bat a space-age ship that's carrying through the storm. Now, inside the ship, we see two pilots, one of which is very focused on the cargo behind them, but we notice early on that the ship gets damaged, and as one of the pilots is trying to radio for help, the other one pulls out the cord for the microphone. And they kind of tussle for a little bit, and the one pilot like opens up his visors and you see his eyes and they look like panicked. The one that ripped out the cord kind of looks panicked, don't know why though, and they crash, for lack of a better term, soon after that happened. Now it looks pretty bad, but at that point we see the cargo was two pods, both marked M-66. And then we cut into our title sequence. The next scene has to do with our lead protagonist, who is a reporter. Her name is Sybil, and we come into a scene where she's showering. She gets a little beep going on because she has the radio going on in the background, but not for the news radio. She's listening in on military radio. And what happens there is she jumps out the shower and she starts like taking notes, and all that she has on her is like a towel, and she's just sitting in her chair taking notes. So this scene does have some nudity, but they're kind of covering all the important bits with like as little as need to be covered. And she gets some, you can tell she is taking notes about the plane crash, and she gathers up all her supplies, runs out the door, forgets that she is naked, runs back in, and then runs back out after she grabbed her pants and just had them over her shoulder. This is a girl that does not care about how she looks. She is full on about her work, and as long as she can get to her target, she is fine. She'll wait until to get dressed until she can get to her target if need be. On that note, we cut back to the military, who have gone to the crash site. We get from some small dialogue that these are military robots. They're very top secret. They're experimental. One of the pilots sabotaged the flight, and they survived, oddly enough, and they're being subjugated to interrogation. The idea is that these robots that were crash landed escaped the pods, and their initial programming that's in there is still there, their test programming. But the only person that knows what their target is the original creator of the program. So they send a man to go investigate and get the scientist that was in charge of the program. This guy is literally like, he looks like a mad scientist. We get introduced to him when the plane with the soldier doesn't crash land, but he gets too close to their house, collapsing the roof. And we see this girl like in her, I want to say it looks like her underwear, just standing there looking pissed. And the pilot is just hovering there and he goes, "Get your grandfather. We need him now. Hurry up." And he doesn't even bother landing the plane. And she's like, "This is like the second time they've done this. You guys got to stop coming in and wrecking our house." She's like, "Grandpa, they need your help." And the grandfather's upset because A, he can't figure out how to get a force field to work. And B, he's like pretty confident this is for useless needs. Like, he's like, "They're after me again for stuff that they don't need. Fine, I'll go. I have a contract. I got to go." And she tells him like, "I'm going to be in the city." And he heads out. Now, coming back to the report, to Sybil, we come to find out that she's actually a reporter, like a freelance reporter, and she teams up with another guy who is trying to get the scoops that she gets. And apparently she's really good at her job. She always gets like really good scoops, and he just pretty much hangs out around her, hoping that he can outscoop her. And they find out that they're basically on the site of a crash landing for the military's secret weapon, which doesn't last long because when the major gets there, he notices right away that there's people in the woods that don't belong there. So he sends his men. They capture Sybil and this dude in the most ridiculous way. Like, they pick up this guy like from behind like a pin. They just like grab him, yank him out, and then they just pull them off screen. And they're getting ready to interrogate them with truth serum. As they're getting ready to do that, that's when the two androids attack. First killing off the snipers that were in the woods, and then they start going back and forth, shooting with the military, and the androids are taking them out hand-to-hand combat style. And these things are super heavy. They're not like light androids. They can climb trees, but they can't be on the branches. They just fall right through. One of them like jumps on top of a Jeep and it falls right through the engine. But at the same time, they're super strong. They can lift the same Jeep that they crashed through and throw it across into another vehicle. Or like one hit, one kill people. Just like boom, they'll punch them in the rib and their entire side just explode. So they're super, super strong, really fast, apparently agile. And they have some weapons on them, like they can shoot lasers from their eye. And they have like these wire claws that come out from their hands. In the exchange, one of the androids does get captured. Apparently, if you can't disable it right away, they self-destruct. And they explode like 20,000 darts and then emit a poison gas on top of that. But they did get it. The other one does escape. Now, you should know that they do have a handicap. The handicap is that they overheat. They don't have a coolant. So they'll go like 100% for a good minute, and then they'll pause to kind of cool down for a brief second, and then they're back at it. So that gives the military a little bit of an edge in some areas. At this point, the main professor gets there, and he sees everything that's happened. He's like, you got one of them. Where's the other one? And they're like, it escaped. And he's like, you gotta get it. You have to find it. The target is my granddaughter. You guys are idiots. Why didn't you dump the test program and upload the main program first before flying off? He's like, we were planning on doing it anyways. It's just, we figured it'd be more efficient to wait until we land it. He goes, just find my granddaughter, protect her. And in the confusion, Sybil escapes. Now, she figures out from overhearing everybody, seeing the chaos, that this thing's after the granddaughter as well. And she recognizes the professor from another news article. So she finds his house. She gets there before the military, but after the android gets there. The android had already wrecked the entire house and destroyed a lot of the machines that were already there, because the doctor creates robots. Like, there was a robot made, completely destroyed. And you could tell, like, it just by walking through the house, it wrecked the house. And even at that, it had the intelligence enough to lay a trap for anybody else that went back to the house, which almost killed Sybil. She just got lucky. While Sybil was there, though, she happened to overhear a video message that was left by the granddaughter explaining where she would be to her grandfather for when he returned, so he wouldn't worry about her. She's a good kid. But at the same time, now only the robot knows where she is, as well as Sybil. So Sybil decides to try to find the granddaughter first. So she takes a motorcycle to track down the granddaughter. Did I mention Sybil is like a klutz? Even though she's like a guerrilla freelance reporter, she's very klutzy at times. She steals this motorcycle, but the front wheel breaks off and she ends up riding it on the back wheel the entire way to a city. I'm not skilled enough to do this down a single block, much less an entire countryside to a city on one wheel. But I digress. So we get back to the city, and we see the granddaughter is in a coffee bar. It looks like a bar, but they're just saying coffee bar. And some people are having like actual drinks and whatnot. Sybil gets there just as the android is arriving. Now, the android had infiltrated the city using the sewer system, which I think was actually a good idea, because that explains how it was able to cover so much distance, as well as being low key without being able to be seen by regular people, because it A, uses the water to be a coolant, and B, it's out of sight. But eventually it does have to come out from the sewers, and when it does, it relatively quickly starts chaos. First attacks the police, and then it starts attacking the coffee bar where the girl is. Sybil is trying to get her out of there, and the girl's like, no, that's my grandfather's android. Like, why are you trying to hide me from it? And she's like, it's here to kill you. She's like, what? And honestly, that scene gave me the vibe of, obviously it was different, but it gave me the vibe from the original Terminator scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger is walking into the club and Reese is there to save Sarah Connor. And I don't mean Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. I mean OG Sarah Connor. I am the waitress. I'm scared for my life. I don't know what I need to do. Someone help me. That Sarah Connor, that's the vibe I got. And the reporter felt like she was going to be the Reese character. And this machine is just going through. And it's just wrecking everything trying to get to them. They get to a back room behind the coffee bar. And it is a giant freezer full of hanging beef and cattle. Kind of like that scene from Predator 2 where they're trying to track the predator. And the machine comes in and the military's already there. They had set up traps. And they actually had these wires set up in the meat to capture the android. They send up Sybil and the granddaughter in the elevator while this thing's trying to get out from the wires in the freezer. My thought, though, was why is there a giant freezer of meat in a coffee bar? Makes no sense to me, but it's the future. Now, in the elevator, it's the reporter, Sybil, of course, and the granddaughter with Paco. His real shining moment is really after they get out of the elevator because they noticed that the machine didn't get stopped in the freezer. It actually escaped. And they set up more traps, like when the elevator reaches a certain floor. And he's like, let's go. And the android's already at the stairway. It moves pretty quick. And they try the traps again. They think they're successful. And I say this because the thing looks like it's shut down. And then the soldiers, pull out a manual and they're going, okay, so how do we wipe the program now? Let's see. You got to pull the red hair, plug it in here, and then you got to hit this button. And literally, they're reading a manual as they're doing this. And then it activates again. And that's when Paco's like using this magnetic donut to kind of keep it away. He gets injured super hard and he kicks the donut into the elevator along with the two girls and the machine. That was Paco's golden achievement. And he tells them one thing: press the button on the forehead. That's all he says after that moment. Word of advice, kids: if you're going to deal with anything dangerous, weapons or machinery, read the manual first. Do not engage without reading the manual first. Going back to the story though, so now they're trapped in the elevator with this killer machine that's essentially anime Terminator, and it's not attacking them. Well, it's trying to, but it can't get past that magnetic device, even though it's losing power. You may ask yourself, well, why doesn't it use its laser eye? I have no idea, but still, it's not progressing. They get to the top floor and they manage to escape the machine just as they lose power, and it's still chasing them. Rather than running after them, it's just walking. And one of the jets fly in and they do like True Lies where they're just like shooting out the floor trying to hit this thing. They knock off one of its arms, collapse like a portion of the roof, still doesn't kill it. We have two black soldiers that are up there, which I was excited for, and they died super quick. They were setting up some mines, and now it's just the two girls trying to hold their own against this machine. They're throwing grenades. The roof is collapsing. They explode the mines. Half the building's destroyed. It looks like a demolition site. And they think they finally won. They're on like this one pillar of rock. And the thing is still alive. It comes out of nowhere and starts attacking them again. And they set up a timer. And they're like, this is either going to work or we're all going to die. And it finally explodes, knocks the thing off the roof, which clearly looks like it's at least 20 stories high, if not higher. And it collapses, and these two girls collapse off the roof as well. But they get caught by one of the floating baskets that's dropped by one of the jets. The guy that's in the basket makes a poor joke, something along the lines is like, well, that was easy. Maybe I should have gone with a smaller basket. And you could see like everybody's like, no, man. We go to the ground scene. Now, like, everybody's landing on the ground. The grandfather's happy to see the granddaughter's okay. They're getting ready to arrest Sybil, and she's like, no, don't arrest her. The major decides, after looking over the report of how many people have died of his soldiers, he's like, just let her go. We have her footage. We have her audio. Just let her go. And then we see the machine that had crashed, fallen off the roof. This thing is still holding up. Even falling off a building that high, it looks like barely anything happened to it, but it's not functioning. So they think that the wiring overheated. And then when the granddaughter's like there, she's like, oh my God, this almost got me. it comes back to life and everybody's freaking out. And then the one scientist that's next to it just goes, boop, hits the forehead, and he's like, ha ha ha, my bad. And essentially, that's it. I mean, there'll be some scenes where it narrates with her talking about how her footage was confiscated, and she is recording her audio into a mic about like something that the experience that she's had, and that she has no evidence for. So she doesn't even know why she's recording this, because probably no one will ever believe her. And then the one photographer that was trying to outscoop her, he had the original footage when they got to the site. Still, he was able to get it on the news, showing when the military was actually there. Not the attack, but the military actually showing up. And then the other footage is just her going to other crime scenes and other stuff, scooping other reports. That's it. Nothing more, nothing really relevant after that point. Now, on to this review. So this movie is a relatively quick film. It's only about 47 minutes long, give or take a minute or so. It's based off a manga of the same title. And I found this on VRV, aka High Dive. You can also find this on YouTube. On VRV in High Dive, it's subtitled. On YouTube, I did see it had it English dubbed, but I wanted to see the original version. It's a 1987 film. It's an old film. So usually when you get a film of that age, the dubbing isn't always the best. So in this case, I wanted to watch the original. Now, for a quick synopsis of this film, for those of you who skipped and didn't want to recapping like usual, it's basically a military cargo plane crashes into a forest carrying two M-66 robots. The military deploys a team of highly trained men to capture the robots from completing their objective. That's it in a nutshell. It is a sci-fi action film. I wouldn't consider it a horror. Definitely sci-fi. It's robots, flying jets, flying cars, set future-ish. Doesn't say what year. And when the action pops off, it does pop off. As far as animation goes, I think the animation style actually does hold up. You can see the frame rate is not the same as it is now. At some points, it does get a little bit choppy, but for the most part, it is actually very smooth. And the details are really good. So they don't dumb down the details of the characters, which I've always liked when I'm watching a good quality anime. The items that are in the vehicles and the machinery parts are very articulated. They're highly detailed. You see the nooks, the crannies, the lines, the outlines that they're supposed to be there. Everything looks good. The nature background is there. It looks like brushwork art in some cases. So I am a fan of that art style, and it works for me. Sound score wise, I'm not a fan of the sound. There are some points where the sound score does work very well, and there's other points where the music sound score just doesn't feel like it fits. Mostly I felt that way at the early beginning. It kind of grew on me by the end, but the same thing kind of happened with me on dubbing. Now, granted, I did watch the original Japanese version, but even then, the audio quality of the voices didn't seem right. It synced up just fine with the lips, but there was going to be points where you're listening to it, and when you have a character that sounds like they should be right here, but then they sound like they're right here, it does throw you off, because you're like, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like maybe they did multiple takes and they just went with what worked and they didn't care. Or if they did a take and they just said, one shot, one go, get this done. And that's the feeling you get when you have moments like that, where it's just like you're talking and then this is happening and then you go back to here and then it doesn't feel right. Setting that aside, story-wise, it's a simplistic story. It's not too complex. It's point A, point B. You may have a C, but it's a very straightforward story. I like that. One of my favorite movies is The Raid. It's a very simple movie. You have maybe 15 to 20 minutes of plot that's sprinkled throughout the movie, and then everything else is just like, boom, we just need to get from here to here to here. And this is all that's going to happen in here. We don't need anything else beyond that. And that's the feeling I get when I watch this. They give certain points that they have to touch, and then everything else is like, we just need to know how we get there. And that works for me. There are some points I laughed just because it's kind of cheesy, and it's like they kind of threw it in there. The action is fairly solid. I could tell that, it was making me feel like there was some danger, and these were credible threats. And the best way I can describe the antagonists of this story is, think of Predator meets Terminator, if that makes sense. That's probably the best description I'm going to have at this moment for them. I'll probably come up with a better one afterwards. Overall, as a rating, I am actually going to chalk this to be, I would dare say this is a 4 out of 5. NerdTots. Hear me out on this. So it's a short film. You don't have to personally feel too invested in it. But as I said, it's very straightforward. It's easy to grasp the story. It's not going to try to overwhelm you by putting too much out there. It is very well articulated for the animation style. Holds up, in my opinion, after being 30 years old plus. And then you don't feel like you need a sequel or you need a prequel to understand and grasp what's going on. So for a person that doesn't watch anime, they can easily watch this, be one and done. And I don't think that this will trigger them to be like, I want to see more anime or more stuff of this. But I can see someone that doesn't watch anime watching it and enjoying it and being like, that was good. It might get them a little bit more intrigued into anime. They're like, I want to see more stuff like this, potentially. But easily walk in, watch it, be done, and then be like, that was entertaining, and not feel offended. Now, granted, I have not watched the dub version, so I don't know if that would steer people away from the audio. You can let me know in the comments below if that's the case. On that note, if you guys have a suggestion, if you watched my beta video, which I'll have queued up in here, let me know which version of this did you enjoy. But either way, I do really want your feedback because this will give me an idea of where to steer my channel, where to steer my format of videos for the future. So other than that, guys, as usual, if you like what I do or you're liking the content I'm putting up, you know what to do. Click that button below. Give me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Stay tuned. I have more videos coming out. And as always, continue watching anime, expand your minds, just be excellent. Laters.
Let's go.